I did see the very last of the Bushmen, and they were still hunting with Bushman bows and arrows, and it was really, it was so poignant to see the last of the most beautiful people that were left. And then, of course, in the Nedi was where I was determined to find the dwarf crocodile, where there's about five of them left in the Sahara, which once was a place of plentiful crocodiles and animals, and they're the last of remarkable little creatures that have managed to survive on.
Did you find one? Did you?
Two.
Oh,
so it was quite exciting. I was thrilled. But the West has a huge misconception about people who live in tribes. It seems to think they all desire to be like us and progress. They don't. They have their children. They don't suffer from anxiety and self-pity, better or cleverer than a man, and they live these beautiful, beautiful lives that are extremely fulfilling.
I was 5. I lived with my mother and father and older brother.
At least I could draw, I told myself.
It was just me, my cats, and my imagination.
Created protective cover, just enough where he could keep his underwear on.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Another Words podcast. Tonight's guest is Jacaranda Summerfield, and Jan is going to introduce her for us.
Hi, yes. I'm Jacaranda. I've known you, I think, since 2004, when you came to the United States from Zimbabwe. So what I'm going to do, as in way of introducing you, I'm going to read your bio, which, doesn't really cover everything, but it's going to take a few minutes to read it. And then we're going to ask you questions mainly about your trips back to Africa, which are really quite unusual. Okay, so here we go. My father and mother lived on Moffat Street in Salisbury, Rhodesia. Standing on their balcony at the height of the Jacaranda season, my father had his hands around my mother's large belly. The avenue trees are so beautiful, he said. If the baby is a girl, we will call her Jacaranda. Born on the plane to Johannesburg, according to the South African Times, I was actually born in a closed-off ward in Queen Mary's Hospital from my famous beauty queen mother and entrepreneurial father. Raised more British than the British, eccentricity was acceptably amusing. My mother wanted her children to be a lawyer, a doctor, or farmer. I was chosen to be the lawyer. What I really wanted was to be either a fighter pilot or bush guide, none of which pleased anyone, as these were not professions for a woman of any sort. After graduating as a barrister in England, attorneys represent the client, and barristers liaise with attorneys and appear in court for the attorney and the client. I spent several months fighting and arguing and realized I absolutely hated it. For my 21st birthday, my parents gave me an open-air ticket around the world. In those days, these tickets were open mileage as long as you went east or west for a year. I stopped in San Francisco, met up with friends of my father's, and ended up married to their son a year later. We settled in the USA. I started an African art business, selling sculptures, which I enjoyed. When my sister wanted to immigrate to the USA, I was pregnant with my first child and gave to my sister my successful little company. Claustrophobic, unsettled, missing the freedom of Africa, after my second child, a daughter, was born, I learned to fly. First single engine planes, then multiple engine planes, then seaplanes. I realized one of my desires somewhat and reveled in the incredulity of my own flying cocoon, transporting me through the clouds to a destination of my choice. I wanted my children to experience true freedom, a multicultural life, first-class education, and live close to my family, close with our fellow wild and domestic animal creatures in harmony. I told my husband I was going back with them to Zimbabwe. I spent a few weeks at Davis University learning farming. We bought a farm and returned to my home. I grew astromerias, passion fruit, oranges, and avocados, selling to Marks and Spencer's, the Dutch flower market, and the locals. My husband built houses for U.S. aid. I started flying to the most remote, untraveled places to look for African artifacts, visiting unexplored villages, islands, and places that the West had not yet polluted. I would take the children and go, some weekends, to somewhere I had seen on a map that seemed remote. It was exciting and rewarding, and I loved it. 7 years later, our marriage failed with the addition of a trophy mistress. I decided to get the Zimbabwe Professions Hunter Guide's license. There wasn't a woman who had passed the written test or even taken it. I sailed through, but struggled to get a seasoned holder of the license who would tutor me for the 2 year practicum. But I did. So I started flying bush safaris to mana pools and elsewhere. My tutor operated. I loved it. The country had deteriorated with its ancient president hanging on to power by playing the race card. Farmers' land was being grabbed by political party members, so called veterans of the Independence War, and it became a dangerous living outside of the city. My husband was refusing to support or care for us, and it was time for me to return my American children to their homeland. My son is now a famous biologist who makes extraordinary television series about animals, YouTube videos, and that are viewed by millions of people and is heavily into conservation. My daughter lives between Miami and Milan and designs gorgeous high fashion clothes, heavily inspired by nature. I live in Santa Barbara in a wild, nature filled property surrounded by my fellow creatures, near to my daughter, really my daughter in law, and my two delightful grandsons. My passion remains being a citizen of the world and seeking out unique, untraveled to, unspoiled places in the world, which is getting more and more difficult to find. So,
Wow.
Jacaranda, when she walked in to my husband's law office and said, I need help. And Larry said, oh, no, I can't help her. You don't have any money. And she doesn't have any money. And I said, you're going to help her because I like her. So anyway, that's how we met.
That is true. That is really true. And
what
Larry
was
was like
your impression of Larry, Jacaranda? Because it's funny. I love to hear.
I had two American children who had been brought back, and my husband had gone to Justice in Shlover at 11:45 before midnight and reversed what had been 4 years of sole custody while I was in the United States. So the attorney in San Francisco had ratified that and ordered the deportation of the children.
So he was after the kids.
Yeah. So there was no way I was letting the kids go back anywhere in Zimbabwe. The place was an absolute mess. It had taken me 3 days to get out, sitting in the airport and having to use my flying credentials to get on a flight. And I wasn't sending them back. It was unsafe, and it wasn't a place where it had no future for my children. So I had approached over 50 attorneys, and nobody would touch the case because of the political ramifications. Right. And I went to see Larry, and he was the nastiest of any of the 50 I'd ever been to. He just gave me one big scolding after another, and I walked out, and I said to the kids, he's the one who's going to help me. He's so mean.
Yep.
I knew underneath was a kind and caring person, and I knew that he was mean because I'd affected him with my story. And then, of course, he didn't really want to touch it because the ramifications were horrible. And then, of course, Jan came along and changed everything. And I mean, they changed my lives, the two of them. It took us a long time. It took almost 8 years from the time I first filed, not in the States, in Zimbabwe, but went through so much. And eventually Jan's brother found a man who said, no American children are going to be deported on my watch. And that was the end of it, really, after that.
John helped a lot, as I recall.
Yeah.
So.
He
That's
did.
amazing.
Yeah, it was awful. It was
yeah,
awful,
it was
awful,
touch and
awful.
go, and you were sleeping with a gun under your pillow. I remember that.
Oh, in Zimbabwe, with a gun under the pillow, locked in my room with the two dogs and the two children in one bed.
Yeah, I know, but I think even here, didn't you?
No, I didn't have a gun here.
Okay.
But the State Department did give us a private detective who carried a gun, and he was the one who drove us to Los Angeles and then up the coast to look for a quiet place for us to stay.
Yeah, which wasn't far from where I am right now.
No.
Yeah, I know.
No. And that
Okay,
was
so
done.
but now, you've lived in Santa Barbara for many years, and Forrest is famous. I watch all his videos. He's amazing. And Summer went to the same boarding school I went to, and she's amazing. So, but you still travel to places where nobody goes. So I thought we'd start with hearing about your trips to both Angola and Chad. I think Chad was first, the first one, and then Angola was the last one. I mean,
Yes.
you've been to other places too, I know.
Yes, yes.
But I thought we'd sort of just start telling us about and the guy you are friends with who does these tours with you. He sounds pretty interesting.
Yes, he's a lovely old man. He was born in Tunisia and grew up, he was there as a local until he was about 16. And then his father wanted him to join the military and put him into a military school, and he hated it. They had a house in the south of France. They were French. And he ran away and literally, I don't think he spoke to his father for the next 30 years. And he just traveled all around Africa from 15 years old on his own everywhere, learned to speak many languages, and was an adventurer, did all sorts of fascinating things, married to first a Dutch girl, and then an Ethiopian girl, and then a Mali nomad, and of course they were all much younger than him. They've all left him, and now he's on his own and just likes to travel, and he's old and he's fun. But he's a wonderful travel companion because he's very knowledgeable, and between the two of us we can sort of manage about most things, I think everything. But it's nice to have somebody like that to travel with. The problem is getting a little bit old and it's getting hard for him. So yes, so it was because of Daniel, who's his name, and he was the one who came up, let's go to Chad, because he hadn't been to Chad. So I said, yeah, sure, let's go. And they have a tribe called the Gerawal. You've seen all the pictures. That's that one with all the top hats on. The Gerawal people, and they have a festival every year. It's a mating ceremony, basically. So what happens is it's a nomadic tribe, and they all gather together every year in a designated spot. And the men spend a week making themselves beautiful, shaving and washing and running, and then comes the ceremony, and they dress themselves up in these magnificent outfits, and they dance. They drug themselves to hell in a bottle. They're quite trembly, and they really enter another realm. And then they dance, and then the women come and they line up along the dancing. And at the end of the day or the next day, they pick out somebody to be their husband, according to how tall and good looking and how weird his dance is.
Wonderful.
And it's and then they have a year to negotiate, how many cows, how many camels, how many goats, negotiate the lobola, and then they get married the next year before the ceremony. So the Gerawal is becoming popular, and I believe in the last 3 years it's being attended by Europeans. So as soon as that happens, it changes dramatically. So I thought if I don't go quickly, it'll be finished. So we decided to go to the south of Angola, which is rainforest area, and exceptionally beautiful, wonderful birds and wonderful wildlife, and very fecund. And we'd watch the Gerawal ceremony, and then we'd make our way up the desert. And there were several things I desperately wanted to see. I wanted to see the Red Arabs. I wanted to explore the Anedi, which is the stone plateau in the middle of the Sahara Desert. That is it's like the Grand Canyon, but up instead of down. It's so beautiful and so ancient and full of these paintings, and the last dwarf crocodile are there in the one river that goes through the middle of the Anedi. There's a place where the spring comes up, and there's five, supposed to be five, but we only saw 2 dwarf crocodiles, which are, as you know, there's only about 20 left on the planet. And then I wanted to see the only lakes that exist in the Sahara, which are northwest of the Anedi. So that was the idea. I wanted to see the Gerawal, the Red Arabs, and anything else on the way. There were some interesting things on the way, but the people aren't the big, except for the Gerawal ceremony. They're not exciting like the landscape. So it was a combination. The Bushman paintings are hugely ancient. They go through several periods of development, and it's a magnificent part of the world. I mean, there's nothing, and it's pretty scary, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I mean, it is scary. I mean, people, you had a small group. How many were in your group?
5 of us.
Okay. Yeah.
So there were Daniel and me and 3 others.
Okay.
A Spaniard, Russian, and Spaniard, a Russian, and a Dutch girl.
Yeah. So no Americans.
No. I've never. Americans never go on those trips. I think they're quite scary. And as I say, generally, I mean, we're not particularly welcome in those parts of the world.
Yeah.
It's you know, I mean, I've never had any problem. People sometimes they get quite excited when they hear you're from America and quite interested. They want to ask, and sometimes it's been quite wonderful to sit and chat. I do love to sit and talk politics with the locals because you get a feeling for how the world is.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if they've got something to say about America, I say, please say it. And it doesn't take them long to rattle off. And I find it very fascinating.
Yeah.
It gives you a real look, you know, not one that CNN or Fox gives you. It's the real thing. And it's
Well,
really
no,
interesting.
because you grew up in Africa, you were born
Mm.
there, and so you know, again, you know your way around. So
Well, it's North Africa's nothing like Southern Africa.
yeah, I know.
Southern Africans are very friendly and open and different. It's a Bantu peoples. The Northern Africans are very different.
Yeah.
They're Nilotics and Arabs, and there are some Bantu, but not quite the same. While Southern Africa is Bantu and Zulu, and mostly offshot from those two peoples. And I speak a little bit of Zulu and quite a lot of Shona, and that helps. Although everybody spoke Portuguese and all sorts of languages else. They speak French in Chad, which Daniel speaks, and Daniel speaks a lot of those languages that I can't speak, the North African languages.
Yeah.
So for between the two of us, we cover a lot of Africa.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Mm.
Now we do have some photos that you sent. Do you want me to pull those up and you can kind of watch?
Put up the Gera wall because that's really fun. That's the one in the very festive art.
Okay.
The high hats. And that was beautiful. So people will recognize it. They had in the ceremony the Gera wall. They drug themselves up and they become the bull because the bull is the man, you know. And they do this lip thing where they imitate. If you've ever seen a bull when it's about to mate with a cow, it gets this trembling lip and big eyes, and that's what they imitate. So they try and look like a bull. So this is a bull going into mating. So they're very effete. They're much more beautiful than the women. They've got these long, slim bodies, and they're much more feminine than the women are. It's even though it's a masculine society, the men are beautiful and the women are quite ordinary.
Amazing.
And they spend hours and hours and hours being beautiful. It's very curious because a lot of this is Western things included, such as some of the beads. And when they were doing their makeup, they were crushing pills from the local chemist in town to use the color, the pinks and things. And it was quite fascinating to see, you know, instead of using all the old natural things. So I say for 3 years, Europeans have been going. So you see the beginnings, and it's kind of sad, but kind of fascinating. You can see the influx of European just starting, but not so much as to spoil the thing. All 5 of them got wives, so-called wives for next year. I noticed the tallest one got picked first, and then it went down in size. And I thought
so being tall is
being tall is big and beautiful, and that was he went within a few hours, and then it sort of drifted down, and the little guy went last. And it's quite sweet. They all come in. It's very, very interesting. They come in on these caravans. They usually come in. There's a man in the front, and he usually has a hunting dog and a big stick. And then they come these big wagons with wooden wheels, and
amazing.
They're all loaded up with the women and children. And then they come donkeys, and the donkeys have the bigger children, and then the goats come, and then the cattle come. So the arrival of people takes the whole day, and then they set up a camp. An arrival camp around where you have masses of cattle with their beautiful big horns, you know, wandering through your camp, and you have, you know, the goats everywhere and climbing up the trees and eating the acacia, which is what you see in the background. And it's very picturesque. It's very beautiful, and there's nothing for miles and miles. Fantastic bird life everywhere. And then each family sets up like a wooden table, and then they put all this jewelry and beautiful pots and beautiful things and a lot of their animus things on the tables. And then they spend hours, they spend a whole day from crack of dawn until the evening putting their makeup on and making themselves beautiful. And then they start dancing as the sun sets.
Amazing.
And then the women aren't even there, and they kind of stroll up from the settlements, you know, and they look like they're very bored. And then they pick somebody. So it was a lovely ceremony. It was fun and it was interesting, and it was more or less what I expected. Maybe a little more charming. They sing incessantly all the time while the ceremony. I can send you a video if anybody wants to see it. So they sing incessantly, and then they launch into the bull rites, and that's the beautiful thing with the bigger and whiter your eyes, the more attractive you are. The bigger and whiter your teeth, which they sit bleaching for hours too, with some kind of stick which froths over their teeth and makes them white. And then after 3 days they pack up and go home with, you know, to negotiate for their future bride.
Amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is fascinating. I mean, it can't last very long. It's very, very old-fashioned and part of the world that they belong to. And
so you got to be there. Probably, you know, one of the more or less last performances.
Everything I'm looking at is the last. I don't think so. I think it'll become a tourist thing. They'll start paying them to do it. It'll become a tourist thing, but I don't want to see it then.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And it'll change. They're already using crushed pills and they're already using plastic. Very small, but it'll change. Yeah. Most of it's still very authentic. And the dance is still very authentic. Okay. So then we went north. So pull up. That's still there. Yeah. Just like I wanted you to see the full length.
That is amazing.
They're very beautiful. The men are beautiful.
Yeah,
they are
very interesting
in a feminine way. They're tiny, they're long and skinny and long feet. And you can see they're not particularly tall.
No, not really, are they?
And that's the Anedi. So we went through. After that, we went. It was a very long and arduous and horrible trip. You literally just go in the boiling sun, and you drive, and there's no tracks and there's no proper road. And I went at a very interesting time. It was the first time the Sahara had rained in 100 years. So if you look, you can see all the vegetation at the bottom. There are all these clumps of pricky, horrible, sticky bits of grass that had popped up everywhere, and it had grown over the roads. So as you go north, you come across, you know, that you get away from the animists, and you come across the Arabs and the Muslims, and the Nilotics. And as soon as the rains came, everybody got really excited because there was this wet, and they all planted masses of millet seeds because they brew alcohol out of millet. And we got totally lost, and we came across a large millet field, and apparently, according to our guide, he said the road had gone through the millet. So we came to a stop, and we were informed then and there that a German family had moved the booms down and gone over. So they'd come out of the village with the sticks and killed 2 out of the 5 of them.
Oh my God.
The week before we got there, because they were so angry because they'd got over their millet fields. So we had to go round the millet fields, which was huge because they planted them all over. And after we got round the millet fields, we couldn't find anywhere. We didn't know where we were. We were so disoriented from the strange shape of the millet field that we then spent 2 days looking for the Anedi, and we ran out of water, and we ran out of fuel, and it was really, really
it's not your usual.
Wow.
Very, very tough going. Then we came across a guy on a motorbike with a goat hanging over the front of his motorbike, and he took us to what he said was the gateway, and you could see the Anedi in the background. I wish I'd sent you more pictures because that's not as splendid as it is. Just the most huge, magnificent, fantastic spires and red rocks, and it's huge, and it's got this huge rivers that run through the middle of it where they come to water their camels and sheep. So that's where the red Arabs are called the red Arabs because they have red hair. And they're really fascinating. They're very nomadic, and they run salt trains, and the salt trains go from the Anedi back to the cities, and they run them on sometimes 20 camels. So you see these camels in the distance, dozens and dozens of them carrying salt, and the salt trains go to the cities to sell salt, and that's all run by the Red Arabs, who are really friendly and really quite beautiful and really interesting. they were so sweet. I was mad about this one little camel, and the guy made the camel do a dance. And honestly, it was like watching a horse. It was up and down and prancing. And some of the camels are really, really well trained, and they've got these amazing camels and camel trains. And then along the way, every now and again, there's suddenly this huge well exists, and there's just hundreds and there's 5 camels to every person in Chad, so you can imagine how many camels. So when you get to the well, you see them pulling up, from this depth up comes the water, and then they pour it into big plastic sort of troughs or circles, and the camels drink, and they clamber to drink, and then the sheep get to drink, and then there's no cows in the north there. It's too hot now. You've gone past. Cows are in the south where the Girawal are.
Well, horses didn't last long there, I assume.
There's horses halfway between, but not up by the time you get to the Nedi, and it's very, very, very hot. I mean, you can't travel from about 11 till about 4 because it's so hot the sand it can't hold your car. You just go straight down into the sand. So you have to find somewhere under a rock, or if you can find a tree, or wherever you can, to stop between those hours until the temperature drops enough for you to be able to carry on. It's hard traveling, but the expanses and the magic is there so much so you just put up with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Then we got so the Nedi was one of the most beautiful things I've ever been to. It's just matches the Grand Canyon or the Victoria Falls or anything natural I've ever seen, and nobody's been there. And you walk in there, and there's these incredible etchings. As I said, they go in 3 periods. You've got the original period, which is thousands of years old, which is where you see giraffes, and they've got rhino, and they've painted all sorts of wild, and there's grass, and they're hunting. Then you go into the later period, which is the bovine period, and it's all cows and herders. And then finally you come to the camel period, which is only a few thousand years ago, and you see the camel. So the etchings become more and more sophisticated and more beautiful. And you go to these huge cavernous, and everybody throws stones in and starts yelling so that you don't get bitten by a cobra when you go in to look for your painting.
Oh my gosh.
It's fun. It's very fun. Or you go through, we went into this incredible area where they water people, and you go through there, and then you could walk through the water through these huge columns which have kept the shade, so the waters remain there so that you can explore and look for more paintings or birds nesting, swallows or patus monkeys, or it's very, very peaceful and majestic. I mean, if you were a God-fearing person, he would be in a place like that. It was really, really special. It's so beautiful. Yeah. Wow. And there's an arch. I sent you the picture of the arch. There's Julia Arch. So that arch, it's huge. I mean, that's the best picture I could find, but it's enormous. It's this huge arch, and you climb up to the top of the arch, and you can look for miles and miles and miles. And it's beautiful, this sort of natural arch there called Julia Arch. And then, of course, in the Nedi was where I determined to find the dwarf crocodile, where there's about five of them left in the Sahara, which once was a place of plentiful crocodiles and animals, and they're the last of remarkable little creatures that have managed to survive on.
Did you find one? Did you?
Two.
Oh,
so it was quite exciting. I was thrilled. It was very beautiful in this little, it's called Guelta, Guelta, and you go down the Guelta Canyon, and there they were, one lying on the bank, and the other one was partially in the water.
Oh, wow, amazing.
There was hyrax there, which is a little bush rabbit, and there was wonderful, what we call pigeons, of course, come from there. So you see them nesting in the eaves of the mountains where it's shady, and there's raptors, and it's very, very beautiful. The Guelta Arch is exquisitely beautiful because there's vegetation down there because of the water, and there's fish, little colored fish swimming everywhere. Very beautiful.
So the feeling of being somewhere where really very few people have ever gone. I mean, to me, that's amazing. And I've talked to you about sort of going to Africa and what sort of precautions you would have to make. And you've described what you travel with, like your medicine bag, so to say.
Oh, yes, my medicine bag. Yeah, you have to take everything. I mean, there is nothing there for you.
Well, tell us what's in your bag.
I'll tell you what I take. I take a general antibiotic. I take painkillers. I take an EpiPen, a steroid, usually prednisolone. So I used to take adrenaline, but now that I've got an EpiPen, I don't bother with adrenaline. I take lots of stomach medication. I take an antibiotic cream. I take a cortisone cream. I take an injector needle, bandages.
Yeah. A lot.
Yeah. It's quite a lot.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot of stuff. But you pack enough for an emergency.
Yeah.
And I've never had to use anything except once, but that was in Mozambique when I was quite young. My father had a heart attack while we were diving, and those were the days when I carried adrenaline, and that was, thank God, because he'd have been dead if I hadn't have had it.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the only time I've been brave enough to hit anybody with a shot in the heart, and oh God, I hope I never do it again.
And you did it.
Yeah, I had no choice. He was going.
Yeah.
It was terrible, absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
I think I was screaming so loud I couldn't hear myself. Because everybody said, "Why were you screaming?" And I said, "Was I? I couldn't really hear myself."
So Jacaranda, just not to change the subject too much, but tell it, because when I first met you, and then I met Forrest, and of course you don't meet Forrest without meeting his snakes. And so you had described to me what it was like, because Forrest collected snakes in Africa.
Yes.
And
yes.
he was always out running around, and he still does.
Yes.
You can't visit Forrest without having a snake put around your neck.
That's true. We have a lot of snakes around. We only have 2 at the moment. It's quiet on the snakes front right now. But the kids do come home with them. They did come home with one the other day, but we let him go in the garden because he was a gopher, which we could do with. So that was quite nice. Yeah, well, of course, Africa's full of snakes, wonderful snakes. So he used to keep a lot of snakes. And of course, I kept building him more and more tanks for snakes. And one day I got into my bed. I think he just started school. So he was about 7. And he wanted to start something. He wanted to start a junior herpetological society because the senior herpetological society was too full of old people. And he was quite right, it was. So I remember we spoke to Steve. Steve was a very strange herpetologist. And he said, "Great idea, let's start a junior herpetology." But of course, they were all in their teens. Forrest was about 8. But anyway, it didn't matter. So we started the Junior Herpetology Association. And of course, he kept getting more and more snakes. And I went to bed one night. I put my hand on my pillow to go to sleep. And I just felt this horrible bite. And I put up my hand. It was a rhombic night adder. Now, they give you most rotten headache. It's quite a venomous little thing. So I walked down. I said, "Forrest, when you come home from school tomorrow, there won't be any more venomous snakes in your room because I'm not getting bitten by anything like this again." And that night I threw out every venomous snake he had. He wasn't allowed to keep them after that. But other than that, I have a lot of beautiful little snakes, but no more venomous ones.
Goodness.
Ooh.
It wasn't very nice. We've got 2 at the moment. We were in Palm Springs once and we were driving along the road and this little snake looked like it was squashed, but it was just the back of it. And he picked it up and it's one of those beautiful rare boas. So we brought her home and he treated her in a bush. She grew happy and nice and lovely. And she got lonely, so he thought he'd breed her. And he was down in Baja and he brought a chocolate version of the rosy boa. And he put it in, but I think because her back was so squashed, she hasn't been able to breed.
Yeah.
But they're very close and they will snuggle together and they're very happy and they'll finish up life here. He's put them in cold in the winter and he's tried everything. I think her cloaca's damaged.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the children love her. She lives in their room and she's really good with them. She's really a lovely snake.
And he has a lot of turtles too, I know.
Yes, lots and lots and lots. He rescues every turtle nobody wants. So there's loads of them here all over the place.
Yeah, well, you all do. Your
That's
place
true.
is full of rescues. I know.
Yeah, it is full of rescues.
Yeah.
There's a lot of creatures here.
Yeah.
I can't let somebody that nobody wants go. It's terrible. So yes, I do have a lot of animals. There's about 100 animals here if you count the fish.
I know.
Which is a
I know.
lot, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming. I know.
Uh,
And you've had some mountain lions and bears.
and the wolf
And
that
the
went
wolf.
through to
Oh
South
yes, yes.
Wow.
Did a big bango on my chickens for a whole 2 weeks.
Yeah.
One
There's a
wolf.
wolf.
It was
There's
so
a
thin.
wolf?
I sent you the video. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a wolf. First time in 100 years. came down, went through San Luis Obispo. You didn't see it because it was all around here. Everybody around here saw him. And then now he went down in Los Angeles. He's got a name like 126 or something.
Oh.
It was in the Los Angeles Times, but it came through here.
He went through your yard?
It was here for about 2 weeks. I think we go to Jan. I can send it to you.
You sent me the video, and I saw him walking across. It's your yard. I saw it. Yeah.
He's here for a couple of
Wow.
weeks.
Yeah.
And the bears, I get a lot of bears.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of bears. I love the bears.
Yeah.
Did you
I
say the
really
wolf
love
ate
the
your
bears.
chickens? You said it ate your chickens?
Yes, they come and eat
Oh,
my chickens.
yeah.
And I always pick somebody I really love who's really friendly, which is quite sad.
Oh,
Then I get cross. I
yeah.
got so cross with the one bear, I actually shot him in the bum with a paintball because I was so cross with trying to get rid of him. Shame. And then I started to cry because he was limping out the gate and looking at me in such horror. I felt really bad. Anyway, he didn't come back. I think it was like chicken number 9, and he ate. First of all, he had my 6 ducks in one night, and then he started on the
That's
chicken.
too many.
Yeah,
That's
he was too greedy, and he left duck bones and bits all over the place. So that wasn't nice. And then he came back, but he was so beautiful. I felt quite sad, and when he limped out, I felt terribly upset.
Yeah.
But anyway, he didn't come back. He didn't like the paintball.
Well, it didn't hurt him.
There it was.
No. He did hurt him a bit because he was limping. That's why I felt sorry.
Well, hurt him enough.
Exactly.
That is hilarious. Oh my goodness.
Did the rooster try to fight him off? Did you have a rooster that tried to fight him off?
No, he ate the bobcat took my rooster.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
right.
The bobcat doesn't even move. I go up to the cage and it just sits eating the rooster. And I'm standing about 3 feet. I'm saying, get out of here. And it carries on eating.
Oh my gosh. Didn't even face him a bit, did it?
I
Man.
had to get a little stick and give him a little whack on the backside so that he got out of here. But he came back again too.
So okay, in this photograph,
Okay.
Jacaranda, where are we now?
This is Angola.
Okay.
And Angola has been at war for 50 years. 3 rather nasty fellows have done nothing but fight over its resources. It is one of the wealthiest countries on the planet. It has more resources than anywhere on the planet, and except maybe the Congo. And it is developing at an unbelievable rate. It's the fastest developing country in the world. And do you think they can get along with one another? No. But because it's been cut off for 50 years, there's been no development, no roads, no infrastructure, no schools, no medicines, no nothing.
Amazing.
So the minute you get out of Luanda, which is beautiful, it's like an undeveloped Miami on this beautiful port with the beautiful sea. And they're just one of the president's daughters is building up the front. She wants to turn it into a resort-like place. And it has everything. It is a fantastic piece of land. It has rainforest and the Namib Desert and savannas. And it has everything. It's got every mineral you can imagine, every precious stone, and it's got everything, but it's poverty-stricken and completely underdeveloped. But at the rate they're developing, it can't last. It can't last at all. So it was a hurry to get there too. So we decided beginning of last year to go, and we went in October. And it was beautiful because I went to Angola in 1982. I drove up from South Africa through the Namib into Angola, and I wanted to see the Herero because I'd heard about these fascinating people, and of course I got to see the Herero, but things were getting pretty uncomfortable there, so I didn't have I was a bit nervous to spend too much time or look too much. So I saw the Herero and I looked around the Kunene and that area, which was really beautiful, and then I left. It hasn't changed. I went back to the Kunene where I crossed it, and there's no bridge anymore. If you want to cross the Kunene, you have to swim. And there's a border post on both sides, and apparently every now and again somebody does swim. And so they sit there with all their guns and all their uniforms and everything. And I have no idea because it's a great big river full of crocodiles. So it's really
so if you swam, it might be a little risky.
It's really, I wouldn't swim across it, I can tell you. You wouldn't catch me swimming across it. But it's still really beautiful, and great bird life and beautiful seashore. There's a an area right where the Kunene goes into the, yes, it's the Atlantic, goes into the Atlantic. And it's very strange. The density of the Atlantic and the density of the Kunene are so different. The water actually sits inside the sea. So there's like this reef and the sea is outside, even though the waves come over and it's sort of saline. And by the time it gets to shore, it's fresh. So all the leatherbacks come and they sit on the beach there. And you see thousands of huge leatherbacks. It's the only place I've ever seen anything like that with leatherbacks. You can see green turtles, but you never see leatherbacks. And they come ashore there and they lay their eggs and they mate. It's beautiful. You see them bobbing all over. And you could go swim with them. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Wow.
And so then we went up from the Kunene. On the way through, we stopped, we saw a lot of tribes. This is the Dimba. It's a very poverty-stricken, poor tribe. It's sort of like the untouchables of India. Most of the locals don't like to touch them. They think they're very dirty. The guide we were with wouldn't go near them. He wouldn't even go into the village. So Daniel and I and my friend Inga, who was with us, the three of us walked into the village. Of course, they all went and hid in the bushes. It took about half an hour, and then a couple of the men came out with their pangas to ask us what we wanted, and it was just the three of us who didn't speak English. Anyway, by the time it came to us, we ended up getting water from the well and playing with the children. And it was really nice, and we got to see the Dimba. And they were washing their water at one of these big wells, and there's always masses of children because they have about 8 to 10 to 12 children, and up until recently only about two would survive with all the various diseases and things they have there. But now in the last few years, because of vaccines and things, the survival rate is huge. So the population is exploding, and the natural resources are great, but there's no infrastructure, and I don't know how they're going to support them. It's just a disaster. Nobody's had a day's education or even knows what a school is. So that was the Dimba. I thought they were quite charming, actually, but compared to the rest of the Angolans, they were ordinary.
Got it. Okay.
Put another one up and out. Yes, okay. There's on the left is the mountain Muila. Now they were beautiful. They were extraordinary. So they have, when they're little, they have the collar the girl has on the right. She's unmarried, so she has that. Once they put that collar, it's on for life. And then as the old women have the bead collar. See that beautiful bead collar?
Yes.
One's the mountain Muila and the other one's the land. They have that beautiful bead collar, and it grows and grows and grows. Once it's on, they never take it off, and then they sleep with a headrest so that they don't disturb it. And you can't really see there, but they wax their hair with butter and wax and dung, and it's all done in these kind of, you could like hers, but they have more when they're married and less when they're unmarried. They were really quite stunning. They were still living in relative, but you can see, look at her shoes.
Oh yeah,
tackies on. Yeah. See the advent of you. So I'm saying you can see people they're starting to make their way into the thing. But they were lovely, and you can see the wall of the hut behind is still all clay, made out of clay.
Yeah.
And the ostrich feather.
Yes.
They were very glamorous. I thought they were super.
Well, they are.
That. Yeah.
They
so
are.
So you've got the mountain Muila and you've got the plains Muila, and that was, I think, I should have double checked. I can't remember which one they were. I think they were the first one. I think they were the plains. But don't quote me on it. Oh, the teeth. So that's quite a lot of the people file their teeth. So they file their teeth to points like that. There's lots of, I think it's mostly for aesthetics. One said it's part of the masculine ritual of growing up, but all the women have got it as well. All the women have their teeth filed. It's quite interesting. And then that's what the men look like.
Huh.
They're quite beautiful too. They're quite tall and quite strong.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
They all everybody carries knives. Everybody carries these huge big knives.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, as I say, Angola also has this incredible varied landscape from the forest in the north. It goes the opposite way of Chad. So you have forest in the north, and then you go you know, further south it gets to go into the savannah, and then you go into the desert. So this was sort of savannah land, and had these fantastic rock formations. It's called Miradora, and there's masses of formations. Some are bright red, and it stretches all the way to the sea, and the sea there has leatherbacks. Nesting is a huge leatherback sanctuary down the bottom there, run by a Portuguese guy, and they trying to stop, you know, allow them to carry on breeding. It's a beautiful. The landscapes are beautiful. They're huge. They're you know, 30 or 40 feet high. It's much more beautiful, obviously, in real life, but it is fascinating.
Yeah. And does anyone ever go down in there?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. We didn't have time because we had, we were sticking
but
to the
you
schedule.
could.
But I would have loved to have had a long walk because it stretches quite far.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Beautiful, beautiful landscapes all over.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, this was a cave. It was a fantastic cave with fantastic paintings. Angola's southern Africa, so it's more like the paintings that I know. But these were very ancient. They were more like etchings and hieroglyphs than they were like paintings. There was no representative. It was just shapes. And I have no idea what they are. Some of them look like flying saucers. Some of them look like large figure eights. And some of them were Ndoro shapes. There were massive shapes all over. And it wasn't only in the cave. They were on the rocks around the outside too. That cave went in quite deep. And then on the other side of the cave to the right was a huge mountain. And all the way up the mountain was full of caves that were all full of those etchings. And beautiful views. And this is all savannah land. There's beautiful trees. Lots of them were in, it was springtime, so all the baobabs were in flower, and the sausage trees were in flower, and it was a really beautiful time of year. There's very little wildlife because they've eaten it for 50 years, not having had, you know, any other source of food, and the population has become so large that the wildlife has almost ceased to exist of any shape, and there's masses of cows. Masses and masses and masses of cows, which of course destroy the environment. And everything. I mean, the cows are worth a fortune. Women are not.
Oh,
I mean, the cows are the most valuable thing they have, and the cows are number one. Everything's about cows. Did you get the picture of the cemetery with all the cow horns?
I didn't see one.
I don't remember that.
I did. I sent it to you. It was just fabulous.
Oh, okay.
Amazing cemetery,
Okay.
and when they die, as they get old, men select a number of cows that are, you know, special cows with special colouring and special looks and special horns. And then when they die, those are slaughtered, and then they're buried. And you go to the gravesite, and there's just masses. You just see there's just masses and masses, about 20 to 30 horns, you know, stacked up, and that's the grave of a wealthy man. And you can find one with.
So your wealth is how many cows you have.
The most precious thing, much more precious than children or women or anything, it's just cows. Cows is the value. It's your main value. And the more cows you have, the more impressive you are.
And don't they use that for a dowry as well when they're, if they have cows and
cows or goats, cows and goats, lots of goats also. So on the right is the elephant people. That's typical of the tragedy of it. They're quite beautiful, these girls. They're all going through initiation. They're all 12 and 13. And this is the year they get married off. They start dressing up. If you look, you see that they've got these big, huge ears on that look like elephants. In the old days, this area was live with elephants. So when the initiation time came, they would kill an elephant, and the most beautiful girl that was the most sought up would wear its ears. But of course, there's no elephants left. So now they make these.
So they make the
elephant's ears to represent what they you know did originally, and I think it's a week to 10 day ceremony, and they look for a husband. Oh, this is the most beautiful. It's called Arco. There's this huge sort of. It's probably, I would say, 30 kilometers, so 60 so miles from the seashore. And there's this massive development of hills and mountains. It looks like a moonscape. And it's all coral, because the Lake Chad was the largest lake in the lake. Sorry, the lake there, Lake Chad was the largest lake. I'm in the wrong country. But that area was when the rains came, the water would sweep in all the way along the coast, and that was all part of the sea. So the coral, as you know, as the world has got more drier and drier and drier, the coral just fossilized, and everything, all these lumps that you're looking at are all coral and fish and fossils, and it's just incredible, massive fossil developments. And you know, shells, masses of little shells all over the place. But it's been 14 years since the sea came in, and it used to be a time of plenty. Once the sea came in, they'd fish shrimp and fish.
Oh yeah, I can
It would
imagine.
be a time of plenty. But for 14 years, the sea hasn't come in anymore, so they're all starving, and they're really undernourished, and there's nothing. And then the government allowed the Chinese to come in, so it's dredged the sea, so there's nothing on the coast either. I believe 6 years ago, it supported 60,000 people in Tombwa, which is the city along the coast. But they took everything with their gill nets, and there's nothing coming in. And you go to the fish market, nothing's bigger than this. Even the tuna, I mean, there's nothing, and there's no chance of regeneration. So it's a bit of a disaster. The landscape is still beautiful, and the remains are beautiful, and this fossilized area is really beautiful. But the future is very bleak for the people who were fishermen, and you know, kind of well sustained fishermen up until about 14 years ago. And it's been a deterioration since then.
Man.
But it's lovely. It's a beautiful landscape. There's huge red rock canyons there, and these fossilized canyons. And Arco is really interesting because you can see the trees that are growing in once was a lake bed. And it's not going to be just drying up. I don't know. I mean, if the sea's going to continue rising, maybe it'll come in again one day in the future.
Yeah.
I mean, things do become cyclical, but it hasn't for a long time.
Yeah.
Probably not in our lifetime, for sure.
Yeah.
Depends how many icebergs melt.
Well, that's true. That's a good point.
Well, you've been to I know you've been to
Antarctic.
the Antarctic. Yes. Yeah.
I have. Yeah, and the melting's bad. It's extremely bad.
Yeah.
And it's very beautiful down there, but everything's dying down there because of bird flu. Massive deaths.
That's wild.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, you know a lot about the environment because of where you go. You see these places. So it's like, you know, you see it. It's not even.
I'm sorry we didn't keep a picture of the Khoisan, because the main reason I went to Angola was because in the late 1990s, the BBC were looking for bushmen in the Namib. They wanted a pilot who would fly low and help them find bushmen who knew about the bush. And I'd spent time with the bushmen as a child. And we spent 6 weeks, we couldn't find a single bushman family. And Daniel had heard that there were Khoisan living in Angola. And that was why I said, let's go. Let's go now. And we did find a bushman family of sorts. And I think it was the saddest 5 days I've had in so long. It was so beautiful. The 4 elders were real Khoisan bushmen. And of course all the children are all mixed and half Bantu and half Gweli and all sorts of other things. But I did see the very last of the bushmen, and they were still hunting with bushman bows and arrows, and it was just really sad. But all the children are working for the Chinese, logging and making coal out of the trees. And it was so poignant to see the last of the most beautiful people that were left here. They still have nothing. They still share everything. All the villages we went into, and I saw 10 different tribes of people, all very different. The Himba, those were the girls all in ochre, red ochre. Those were the best, those were the most fascinating of all the people. And the Himba men with their fantastic mohawks. So I did get to spend some days with the last of the San, and it was something.
Well, as I told everyone, you're a storyteller, and you're just a fountain of not just information, but you've really been to these places, and I mean, you've led a very unusual life. I know that. And, you know, I think I'm pretty sure we met in 2004 when you met.
2002.
2002.
Mm.
So yeah, it was quite something. But you know, Jacaranda and I probably, I don't know, we touch base at least once a week. And you live, you know, in Santa Barbara now on a most, if you ever get to California, you need to visit Jacaranda.
For sure. Yeah.
Your property is so magical.
Very cool.
It really is.
I think that's, I remember, I think it was your mom, Shayna, describing sunset at the house in Zimbabwe. And she goes, "Oh, yeah, that's about the time the zebra and the giraffes stroll through." I have never forgotten that because that's just, you know, I guess we look for our little critters here, but
Yeah.
that is so magical, right? So, in a way, that makes Forrest who he is, you know, just very comfortable around animals. You too. Yeah.
Do you
got
think
the
the women
spot.
in the tribes? I want to ask you a quick question before we close here. Do you think the women in the tribes, like, did they, like, they must have been fascinated by your life? I mean, just saying, as a woman, and just things that you've done. And did they like talk to you about any of their dreams or desires, or like differentiation in life, you know, and how, you know, their life is from yours and how uniquely different it is?
The West has a huge misconception about people who live in tribes. It seems to think they all desire to be like us and progress. They don't. They don't suffer from anxiety and self-pity. They live these beautiful, beautiful lives that are extremely fulfilling. One of the things that really I've never lived without, we have a thing about circumcision. We think it is the most shocking thing because we are sex obsessed, okay? And when I was Forrest was 4, so I must have been 34, 35. I used to just take my plane and go to all these crazy places. And I went up to northern Kenya. And I went to a village, a Samburu village, right up in the north, quite near Turkana. And it was a beautiful village. It was like it had been settled for a little while. And we weren't allowed in, my daughter and I, because we weren't circumcised. So we had to be outside the village, but my son could go in. And I spent 2 weeks there with the women there. Nobody could speak English. It's quite difficult. You have to have a translator. But, you know, after a while, even sign language becomes quite simple, and you do get to. And all the women are circumcised at about 10, 12 when they get their periods. And they are happy. They belong to a huge community. They love their children. They're loved by their husbands. They have their roles. They're beautiful. They live this life of great fulfillment through their family relations. They all share their children. They share their problems. They live in a community, and they're extraordinarily happy. And it occurred to me, we think, oh, this woman's escaped circumcision. Here she is in the West. She's got no family. She's got no culture. She's got nobody has a clue where she comes from, how she feels, what she was. She's completely misplaced, but God, guess what? She got her clitoris. I mean, it just hit me that we have no concept of a culture that is not like ours, or how we think they should be, because their culture is quite beautiful, and the way they live is extraordinarily fulfilling without us. It's only when we get there and tell them, oh, you can't get circumcised. Don't let him boss you about him. Why did he tell you to cook the food and all that? We ruin everything. And that's why I don't want to go anywhere where white people have been, because we take everything and turn it into an abortion, where it's neither Western or neither animist or Muslim or Arab or whatever it is. We take it and we mess it up, and we make it miserable. And we make women feel sorry for themselves. Because there's no society, and I've lived on 3 continents, that's as miserable as a society where women have everything.
You're right.
It's just my vision of things, and you asked for it, so I've given it to you. Yeah.
Jacaranda, this is why you need to write. Of course, I'm always telling her she needs to write, but You do.
Some
But
incredible.
that was a revelation for me too, because
Oh
I had
no,
all those
it's an
Western concepts.
important one.
And it was during that week when my little boy was playing in the village and I was outside, and I was so aggravated at first. And then I thought, but I don't belong in the village. It's true. And I was so lucky to be able to meet these lovely women who would come out with breakfast every morning and found me some rats to eat and all sorts of stuff. And, it was such a lovely week. And I got to know these lovely, happy, beautiful women and the rules and regulations. And it was beautiful the way they lived. And I find that in all the tribes, everywhere, till we get there.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting concept, and that's mine. It's not held by anybody else, I don't think.
But that's been happening for thousands of years. I mean,
absolutely.
I was just reading the
Absolutely.
history of Easter Island, and it was the Portuguese explorers
Who came in?
came in and gave them disease,
Right.
chickenpox. I think
Syphilis.
it was.
Yeah.
Well, here in the U.S., when the Europeans arrived, we Europeans arrived.
Oh, that too.
That too. No, it's right here.
Yeah. I mean, we could live their life, but I don't think we should expect them to come and be happy with our life, because I don't think
I
it gives them
agree with
any
that.
pleasure at all.
I agree with that. I know that's true. I know it's true.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
We should all be so lucky. God.
I mean, and, you go to Chad and you don't see a woman. You don't see a woman anywhere. And then suddenly you'll see a car come, and you'll see this car come, and there'll be a bunch of men sitting inside the little cab in the front, with the air conditioning on. And then you'll see about 10 women sitting in the back, and they've just got a slit across here, and they're not allowed to look, and they're not allowed to speak, and they're not allowed to see, and they're not allowed to walk in the streets unless the men surround them. And you wonder what it's like, what is it like to be one of those women? And of course, I've never really had the opportunity or ability to go. My preconceived notions is, oh my God, it must be terrible, but I don't know.
You don't know.
And I see that, and it looks so subjugated, but I don't know. So I find myself doing the Western thing. Oh my God, imagine living like that, and all those black robes. You must be so hot, You think But I've tried now not to ever judge or to try. I try to stay away from making a judgment, although it's difficult. So I do understand why the West sees things as they see them.
Yeah.
Mm.
Now, we have talked a little bit about your son, Forrest, and the fact that he's on YouTube. Can you tell us how we can find him and watch his videos?
Oh, you just look it up. You can look at his movies on every platform except Netflix. You can get it on Prime. You can get it on Disney. You can get it on just about anything. There's a lot of shows. Yeah,
but he has
there's
a different name than you.
Extinct and Alive, Mysterious Creatures. The latest is beautiful. It's called Bantara Sanctuary Stories, and it's beautiful. I love it. My favorite. That's the one he's done himself. He hasn't had to do it for Discovery or anybody. And it's really beautiful. And then he does Shark Week. He's got some stuff on history, but it's not as good. It's not his best stuff. There's stuff on history and there's stuff on Travel Channel. But those are the nicest ones, especially the Bantara Sanctuary. It's not on YouTube. It's on Discovery or Prime or thing. YouTube, he has, you can just go look them up, Forrest Galante.
Can you spell his last name?
Galante. There's a lot of them.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Just pull it up. You'll see. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So he produces a lot of what he produces is better than what he produces for people.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah,
I mean, when he's on his own, he's wonderful.
It's beautiful.
He's not having to play a role.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I like the Sanctuary Stories, because that was pure him from top to bottom, and they're really quite gut wrenching at moments. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Or they're all just real stories about animals.
Yeah.
Very beautiful.
So, Jacaranda, it's wonderful having you on here, and you're a storyteller, the best that I know. You're fascinating.
Thanks.
You're one of my best friends.
And vice versa.
I love you.
I love you too.
So, and thank you for coming on, and I want to have you back.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Because there's more.
Thank you.
More photos.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Yes,
get
next
more
time I'll
photos.
make sure they get through.
We'll get more photos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To
All
his-
right.
Thank
All
you
Yeah.
right.
so much.
Pleasure.
It's wonderful.
Bye.
Everyone have a
Bye.
good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.